Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Mom.
And today my mom and I are here to tell you how we felt about the Poltergeist remake. Hi Mom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. It's been a while.
It has been a while. The last movie we reviewed was Carrie.
Saving Mr. Banks was after Carrie. Because that was the first one we did.
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah. So we did.
I thought it was reversed.
So we did that a couple years ago.
I'm old.
And that's all right. And no, I don't remember things all the time either. But,
yeah, well, you know.
So Mom and I did the Carrie remake, and we thought it would be fun to come back and kind of do that for Poltergeist. And I don't know. I guess we were both like kind of half curious, just But if you're like me, this was a thing that I didn't want to happen.
For sure.
And I was sort of like that with Carrie too, but I guess this was more of a thing for me because Poltergeist, I don't know, Poltergeist to me, especially being a Spielberg thing, and I don't mean to say that everything Spielberg touches is gold, because it's not, but it's like remaking E.T., right? Like what's the point? Like Poltergeist, and when we get into the review, I'm going to try not to let this affect my review too much, but the deal with Poltergeist is that it was really important in how it influenced the genre, how it influenced movies in general. It's another one of those early 80s movies. In 1982, it's one of those early movies that did a lot for special effects, it did a lot for practical effects. Some of that stuff still really holds up and looks just fantastic.
Yes, it does.
Spoilers for the original Poltergeist, but the house at the end, I mean, it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, the fact that the house is swallowed up at the end and all that, and the first one is really, really good. But what the first one also does, I think, is that it focuses on family values real well, especially the relationship between mothers and children. And it really sparked the curiosity of the afterlife more so than anything I had ever seen at that time.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So nowadays
sense of mystery to that.
Nowadays we've got movies out about that all the time, and I can't really quote anything right now, but that was one thing that really struck me. In 1982, when I saw it with your dad.
Yeah, if you want to talk about modern horror films affected by Poltergeist, Paranormal Activity, stuff like that, and I mean, you wouldn't have that entire subgenre of horror without Poltergeist. And
we can't forget the Ghost Whisperer, that was on TV for a few years.
Well, and that entire phenomenon of ghost hunting and that kind of thing, affected certainly by the horror craze, and of course they try to kind of poke fun at that, or maybe do a little bit of commentary, maybe kind of in this on that. I have a slightly different read on the original Poltergeist, if I may, real quick, and that not to go back and review that movie, but one of the things that really hit me this time, because I watched it again in preparation for this, was that it had more social commentary than I remembered.
Oh yeah.
And there's some anti-corporate stuff in that movie, and there's some this sort of wholesome, complacent suburban family thing of you got the kid with all the Star Wars stuff in his room and all of that, and everybody's just like really sucked into pop culture. I thought it was really cool in that movie that his room looked like every boy's room did in 1982.
Yes.
And it was kind of about everything that was wrong, maybe the movie thought at the time, with modern parenting. And I think that's really interesting. You had a lot of things in that movie with this like seemingly perfect family, but there's not a lot of discipline in that household, and so maybe some of what happens is because of that. The kind of playing around with people's notions of television rotting your brain and that kind of thing, and I just thought it was kind of thoughtful about that, and sort of, and what I felt like the remake is trying to do a little bit like it, but I don't think it's quite succeeding at, is that that movie was really tongue-in-cheek about everything.
It was.
But kind of consistently so. So anyway, quick, really quick.
But one other thing about the original is this notion of be careful what you wish for. because everybody wants this status quo, as you were saying, that this high status piece, and the dad in the story was working for this company that was building all of these developments that were going up everywhere and still are. And we joke all the time in our household that you look around the corner and you see nothing, and the next day you've got Insta apartments, because
right.
everything goes up, and that's kind of what was happening in that original film. You get a little taste of that in this one, but that is kind of on the back burner, I think, because the dad has a totally different lifestyle and totally different career.
Well, and more than be careful what you wish for with that. We're sitting here reviewing that movie now, but more than just be careful what you wish for. That I think it was not wanting to know what exactly it is that makes your life so kind of just okay and simple. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's why I said it's got kind of an anti-corporate thing, where it's like don't ask, don't tell, and then suddenly finally somebody thinks to ask, but what has to happen to him before he does?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so quick synopsis for this one. It's Poltergeist. It's watered down Poltergeist. It's basically the same story told sort of in reverse, because a lot of the third act stuff comes in the first act, and it's basically the exact same story, sort of modernized with a little bit of kind of a new addition and twist here and there, but I don't think anything that really adds much to it. I guess I'm giving away how I felt about this pretty early, but I don't know how to give a synopsis without saying. It's kind of cookie cutter, the same movie.
Yes, with a little bit of change in that it is set in this time period,
right.
like the other one was set in that time period, and it focuses more on the technology of the time than it does on much of anything else.
We'll get to that, because that was the thing I wanted it to do and didn't think it actually did quite enough of.
I agree.
Interestingly, but anyway, so like I said, it doesn't tell a totally different story. It's pretty much the same thing, and kind of winds up about in the same way, with kind of twist here and there.
Yep.
Mom, how did you feel about the remake of Poltergeist?
Why did they do a remake? I mean, that's
sure, yeah,
basically what it was. I think I went in there hoping for a different story.
Yeah, you can be won over by a thing like this.
I really did. I went in there hoping for a different story. There wasn't a lot different about this than there was about the beginning. Now, although it did focus more on reality TV, I think there was the tongue-in-cheek piece of it for me. That whole issue of that we didn't have back in the day, as we say, but this one just didn't do it for me at all. And I will say that if you have not seen the original, this might be an okay movie, but it just didn't tell enough of the story for me. There wasn't enough of a story there, as far as I was concerned.
What did you think? Was there anything that really worked for you?
The lost souls. The lost souls in the closet, and the way the special effects really portrayed all of those lost souls, as they really as I would picture them being, not as in the original movie where they're just lights and you see them coming down the stairs and whatever. This is something totally different, and I don't want to give all of that away. So that, if you like horror stuff, that was cool, but it didn't scare me as much as the first one did. Maybe it's because I've become desensitized, but
there is that.
The first one scared the heck out of me.
But let me ask you a question. Did you have, even though you had seen it before, and of course it's been a long time, but when you watched but what I'm asking is, when you watched the original again, did you have any of the same kind of reaction that you did the first time? Was there anything that jumped out at you and surprised you? What I mean is, like, did it still hold up as a scary movie?
It held up as a scary movie, but I think the difference for me this time is, when I saw it the first time, I was very young, early 20s. You had not come along yet. I didn't have kids yet. We didn't have kids yet.
2 years before I was born.
And so that, now you're giving a lot away.
I am. Well, it doesn't tell people exactly how old you are.
But we were...
I'm 30, so, take a guess. Sorry.
we were, I was scared by a lot of things in that original movie. And I think this afternoon I jumped a whole lot as certain things came back into play, even though I expected them to happen.
Yeah.
But the difference for me this time is I could identify with the mother and the way she felt about her kids and whether... And I had to put myself in her place to say, okay, would I do the same thing and go after the kids? Absolutely, I would.
But I guess the question is then, did you feel anything for these characters?
So for these characters...
Because I didn't.
Not really. I didn't at all. I didn't get the sense of connection with any of them like I did with the original. That whole piece of insecurity between the mom and the dad in this particular film, because the dad is kind of unsure of himself and where he is in his life and whatever. He's just lost his job. We could say that, and so he's not sure where his life is going. So he's still a little bit kind of on the fence about some things, but I think he still cared about his family.
That was just an addition I didn't think we did enough with.
I agree. I absolutely agree. We didn't get near enough of that whole thing, but with this one, the characters were now. I did like the boy, the son, Griffin, in this one.
I thought his actor was really good.
I thought his acting was really good too. I don't think they played up his story as much, or any of them, for that matter.
I just think that there was an attempt at some superficial character arcs.
Yeah.
And the first movie wasn't really about character arcs.
No.
It was, it was more about the, again, I think first of all, the social commentary, and then second of all, as far as the characters went, because I think we have a different read on it. I think they're archetypes in that first movie, and I think that they, and I think that they are like kind of heightened versions of like the perfect suburban family in the early 80s. I think that's the whole point of it.
I agree with that.
And all of a sudden, they're shocked into reality a little bit when this crazy thing happens, and
Sure.
so they kind of become sort of more real people when they lose their daughter, but they're still kind of exaggerated personalities.
See, I don't feel that way about the original movie. I felt more that way about this film than I did about the original.
Well, when I say exaggerated, I mean like it was intentional. Here, I think that they're more fully developed real people, and they're not. And in the original movie, I think that they were meant to be exaggerated characters. And I'm saying that, attempting, of course, to have some historical perspective on it. But even now, I still think that it kind of watches that way, especially when you compare it to other movies right at that time, things that are maybe a little bit more realistic. I don't think that movie was trying to be realistic, really.
The original?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really
wasn't,
don't. And I think this one in places thinks it is. Kind of.
What this one...
But anyway.
What this version also did not do for me was the fun in the Poltergeist.
Exactly.
The fun in the Poltergeist, this whole thing where the mom is in the original movie noticing some things and testing some things out, like the chairs and moving across the floor and whatever.
There's a sense of wonder about it, because there would be, but the problem is they do nearly all of the other stuff that there was that there was an escalation to in the first movie before stuff starts moving around. Hardly at all. It's a bizarre choice. It was bizarre. Go ahead and flip your sign real quick.
So this one, I'm thinking, I'm not feeling this one unless you haven't seen the original. You know, and then if you haven't seen the original, don't go see it in the theater. Rent it. Seriously.
Fair enough. Mom?
How about you?
Well, this movie, I'm being somewhat facetious when I say this, made me feel like going into the light. Because I tell you, if some light portal popped up over my head while I was watching this movie, I would have jumped into it just so that I didn't have to finish this movie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I am so sad for Sam Rockwell, because he's great, and I think he did as good of a job with this material as he could, but he's wasted in this. And I was with it for the first 5 or 10 minutes. I thought that I thought that he was starting to build kind of a fun family dad, everyman, just trying to keep his family together. And after a while, the typical horror stuff started coming in where they were doing things almost, I felt intentionally, not like these people. And not as bad as you usually get with formula horror films, mostly because we can't kill them off.
True.
And so you go farther in making in these kind of movies to make me hate a character because I want them dead and they need to do something to deserve to die, and you don't have that as much in this. Yeah. There were a lot of things, and I feel like it's impossible to not compare it to the original, because it's kind of doing the same movie but repackaging it. Mm-hmm. I disagree with you hard when you say that this movie is maybe okay if you haven't seen the original, because I feel like if a person that hadn't seen it went and saw this, it would just feel like every generic horror movie made since the year 2000.
Yeah, I would say that. But if you like that kind of thing, then it's not.
If you like dull, generic horror movies, I'm
not saying that it's going to be a stellar movie, but
here's my point, though. I feel like the first movie, to a degree, kind of holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could call it dated because of the time period it's set in, but I don't think that's fair. Because I think, again, it is very much about the period it's set in, so I think it holds up in being. And E.T. did this too, where it kind of holds up some as being like an encapsulation of that period through this supernatural lens. Mm-hmm. It's a writer and a director's read on present day to a degree, but not to take all that too seriously, because again, Poltergeist was also about having fun. What's weird about that movie is that it's a. And again, I'm not saying this movie that this version is bad because it isn't this. I'm saying it's bad because I think it thinks it's this to a degree, and then when it isn't that, and it's kind of confused and conflicted a little bit about its tone. Mm-hmm. When it isn't that, it's just boring, generic jump scare horror movie. It's really predictable, and it
is that
irritating to do that to this material. Could you do a modern update and to Poltergeist and make somebody either who had not seen the original or who had really appreciated it? Yes. The way you do that is you make it about now, and you maybe make the social commentary about more of what's going on right now. There's some superficial stuff, but it's not interesting or clever or creative about it. So it's like, oh, look, we have a drone. Okay, but what about that? It's like we've because you mentioned technology. Okay, well, we've got a lot of the modern technology we have now.
In the way of Skype, in the way of cell phones, in the way of flat screen TVs, that kind of stuff that they did not have.
Sure, they didn't
originally.
Have it. But what's the point within the context of the film? My point is, it's like, okay, we have to do Poltergeist again for modern day to update it, because if you watched it in 1982, you'd go. If you watched a 1982 film and you're like 16, you'd go, oh, where are the cell phones? And we're not saying anything about that stuff. No, and I feel like there was some kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff about television that the original was doing. Where was that about tablets and video games and that stuff? It was kind of just trappings. It wasn't about that stuff.
Well, it was the whole thing. The daughter, what the heck happened to her cell phone? It broke, or what? It was fried or whatever, and she said she had to have another one.
Right.
And Dad says no, and then other things happen later that I won't give away, but
my point is, I just don't think they were saying anything about that stuff.
But then they're not saying anything about it, and I don't think they said anything verbally in the original. It was just stuff that was acted out and came out.
That's my point. The piece isn't saying anything about modern technology, and I feel like it was to a degree in 82.
It should be saying more in this one.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that Poltergeist, that the original Poltergeist is deep. I'm saying there's a little more going on than there is here. Mm-hmm. I think that this movie is going to be more dated than the original Poltergeist. Yeah. Well, and it's also going to be a, movie that's thrown in the $5 bin in Walmart because let's face it, it's just another horror movie cash-in on a name, and that's really kind of sad, because I feel like you could be really creative with this material. Mm-hmm. Also, part of the reason I say that it's maybe more dated is because interestingly, and maybe I don't know. I don't think I'm wrong about this. I think that this is, in a lot of ways, the Poltergeist remake I would have expected to see 10 years ago in the mid 2000s, because all of the big, like the giant reality TV movement, kind of not as big a deal as it used to be, right? I mean, like, you still have reality TV, but, like, do we have as many people obsessed with these ghost shows and stuff as we used to? I kind of think they've gone a little bit out of fashion, and yet we're
certainly not quite as popular.
We're doing it here like it's as big as it was 10 years ago. That's a really strange choice. But for me, the biggest thing is simply that the mystery is gone.
Yeah, well, and that was what it was for me too. They reveal everything so soon.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Which is why I say, so at this point I'm going to go straight for red, because now that I think about this a little bit more, even with that piece of it, you don't find out the whole reasons for all the problems until 25 minutes from the end of the first film, whereas in this one you find out 25 minutes from the beginning.
Yeah, the way it played
drives me crazy.
The way it played for me, it was like it was using all the stuff that was kind of surprising and shocking in the original, as far as exactly what was going on and why there was why there were poltergeists.
Right.
As a generic. It feels like just a generic premise for a horror movie. So it's first act stuff. It's like we have to set this up to get the ball rolling. And what was so interesting about Poltergeist was that you didn't know exactly why. And you got some clues, and then at the end... And I would say that with not a perfect movie, I would say that with the original Poltergeist, you can kind of put it together. So when you finally get the big revelation, it's like... It's like, oh, okay, of course that's what's going on. And so it's not really a light switch moment, but it's still kind of... The way it's played, it's like oh God, these people, these realtors have no sense of responsibility, and look how we're having to pay for it now, and this movie, it's just that all of that is just, again, set up for a bunch of set pieces. I didn't like that we get in minor spoiler, I didn't like that we get any POV stuff at all from the daughter. It just takes all the mystery and that atmosphere kind of away. It was sort of like, how can we make Poltergeist as uncreative as humanly possible? I mean, I'm not saying that there's nothing cool. There's a bit. There's a bit toward the beginning with, believe it or not, comic books. With as far as something that the Poltergeists do. We needed like 10 more of those,
and that's what I'm saying.
Where was that stuff?
That was the fun, and it lasted all of 20 seconds.
What was creepy about Poltergeist and what people remember about it is, what if you were just in your house and then stuff started moving around, and you didn't know the cause of it, and and it goes through the stages of that. So at first you'd be curious, and then it becomes kind of horror. And like I said, there was an escalation that just wasn't there with this.
The other piece that really frustrated me about this version was that they took several of the key lines from the original story, they placed them in this movie, but they put them in the wrong places.
Well, that's not...
exactly
a problem. It's just confusing because I feel like, again, it's kind of more.
It was all out of place, and it was, and it killed, as you say, it killed the mystery of the whole story.
And see, the reason that you care about that, I think, is because the movie thinks it's kind of just Poltergeist, so you're like, well, if you're just going to be Poltergeist, then just be Poltergeist.
Exactly.
I don't know what the point is of completely reshooting and remaking a movie.
Sure.
We did that with Psycho. Nobody liked it. It was an interesting experiment for the people making the movie, but the people watching it, who cares?
Exactly.
Well, this movie, it kind of just jumbles some stuff around. So it's like, okay, if you don't know Poltergeist, you're not going to get like the magic and the mystery of it. But if you do know Poltergeist, it's kind of just throwing lines at you and going, oh yeah, I recognize that. What's the point? I can go back to the original Poltergeist and say the lines of dialogue that I remember as I'm watching it. And anyway, I'm kind of, as far as remakes go, this review is a broken record because this movie I have seen before. This remake I have seen before. And I didn't have high hopes for it at all, but Sam Rockwell picks good projects. Most of the time. And so I thought there was, a chance that maybe something interesting and creative was done with it. So, again, let me reiterate. I'm not saying that it doesn't work because I've seen the original is better. My point is it could go its own way.
Yeah, it could.
And then I could look at it on its own terms.
Exactly.
It's not asking me to do that.
Exactly. Which is why I say, why did they do this? I don't understand.
Brand recognition, quick buck. I hope they didn't spend too much money on it. I haven't looked that up, but it didn't look like it cost very. That's one of the things too. Is that
a waste of time and money. Now I will say that the special effects were done well.
I don't agree with that.
But they weren't done. They weren't spectacular. They weren't spectacular, but as well as, well, I don't know.
I'm just saying, genericified horror movie special effects, they're passable. It's okay. To take this material and do regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill, passable special effects, it's kind of unfair to the material.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's a slap in Spielberg's face. And I bet he is going I bet he is just chomping at the bit to get a hold of somebody and go, why didn't you just ask me? I would have done a better job.
I don't think he would have remade his own film, but
no, he would have made it a different story.
Yeah, somebody must have just gotten rights or something, because I don't think he would have signed off on something like that. Who knows though? I don't know that. Look, if you go your own way and tell a different story, make it a totally, because obviously this wants to be a horror film. Poltergeist was more of a suspense thriller with, again, kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing to it. Like it's got its horror thing. Especially third act, there is a lot of, oh no, she's in a tub, what's gonna happen? We do have some of that, but I just feel like this is kind of straight up jump scare horror stuff. And if it wants to be that, it should get far away from what the original was.
I'd agree.
So anyway,
I would agree, absolutely. So.
I want to say disappointing, but it's kind of what I thought might happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So anyway, we both flipped red, and I personally am not recommending this to anybody, and would say go watch the original Poltergeist. I feel like, and maybe I'm getting a little bit older and out of touch, but I feel like even kids, teenagers or whatever, now going back to the original Poltergeist, this would be a more fun film for them.
Oh, it would absolutely be more fun. Definitely more fun than the one that's out there. I wouldn't waste my time on this one. Not at all. So, there we are. Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching a new movie review. And I'll be back with you again sometime in the very near future. And Mom, I hope you will come back and do another review. Happy to.
Sometime down the line. Thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate it. And if you saw this movie, leave your comments and let us know how you felt about it as well. And I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Mom.
See you later.
Have a good day.